Hello beautiful souls and welcome back to my channel Soul Journey. My name is Beck and today I wanted to talk a little bit about this idea of saving the planet or the planet is dying. Because I feel like a lot of people who don't really want to engage in the saving of our planet, they often come up with the excuse of like, the planet's fine, we're just in trouble. And I think that's a really interesting distinction because I mean, on some level, I would agree. Like, the planet has been here for millions of years, and it will be here millions of years in the future. At one point, it was just a hunk of rock or crystal, and then it's gone through all these changes, and it's going to survive either way. It's not like it's going to break apart, right? But I think what these people are missing when we say save the planet, we're not really talking about the like, Earth itself. We're talking about the beings here on the planet. And I think what a lot of people don't like to acknowledge is that, okay, we are creating an environment that's not going to be suitable for humans. And, you know, like we could say like, well, that's our own business if we want to go extinct, which I don't think all of us want to. But what no one is taking seriously is the fact that we're going to be taking a whole lot with us if we continue to treat the planet, and I'm saying the planet not as like, again, the hunk of rock that is Earth, but rather all the inhabitants that see her as a home. That's what we're saying when we say save the Earth. We're talking about it as a collective. There's all these other beings that consider planet Earth their home, that if we keep continuing to live out of harmony with the planet, they too are going to suffer. And I think this is really interesting because then it comes down to, why don't we see other life as being as important as us? Because most of us have grown up believing that we're the most important beings on the planet. But when you remove like a religion that is telling you that God said we're better than other creatures, there's really nothing that dictates that. And so we have just kind of stepped in this intense ego space of believing that it doesn't really matter what happens to those other beings if we deem it okay. And I think this is a huge part of the speciesism that's on our planet, and a lot of what's going on in the vegan movement is kind of looking at that stance and going, does that really make sense? Like, we're all here. Technically, none of us know how we got here. I mean, you can say you learned it in your, your Bible or your ancient texts, but you weren't there. You don't technically know. You believe you know, but you don't know. Even scientists who are looking at history and things like that, like, none of us were there. We don't know how we got here. We don't know if we were seated here just like every other animal. We don't know that either. And so this concept of we're making all these decisions and all the other beings on the planet are just at our whim is very reminiscent of how we treated people of different races not just a couple hundred years ago. And so many people were convinced these are subhuman, right? These people are subhuman. It doesn't matter. They feel less. It literally still in medical... Interesting sound. I don't know if you can hear that. Even in medical journals today, it says African American or people from Africa or darker skin, whatever you feel is best, is like that they literally feel pain less and things like that. And it's just mind-boggling that these are still concepts we are dealing with other human beings, much less other non-human animals. And we now know that so much of that is completely ridiculous, but 200 years ago, that was the norm. Like, if a being had another skin color, it meant somehow they were inferior. And now we look back and then go, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. Like, how could we have seen that? Like, clearly they're like, just like us. They have feelings and emotions and families and they're human and duh. But we haven't, like, we still keep our eyes shut when it comes to the family units of other non-human animals. and they have families. They clearly get sad when one of them dies, and it depends on the animal how they deal with it, but people are different too. And I mean, whales are known to like carry their like dead children like on their heads while they're swimming, and elephants mourn and have graveyards, and dogs get sad when their companions die, and all of these things. And so they clearly have feeling. They can get depressed when another one of their species dies in the house. Oftentimes, if two animals are super bonded, if one of them passes on, the other one can get sick and get very depressed. When they are hurt, they scream out in pain and they run away, and they can have a fear mechanism. They can get emotionally traumatized. We know this with like dogs and cats, where if they were abused by a certain gender person, they are then scared of that gender person and other people. They can determine the gender. They can tell if someone has a hat on or not. They can tell these things. So at what level have we determined that though none of those things mean they're intelligent? Because those are learned things. Those are them, grappling with new situations. Those aren't normal, things that they'd see in the wild. And not to mention, they can be healed from trauma. There can be an animal that's extremely scared and terrified, and then with therapy and trust exercises, they can learn to, heal that trauma. These are all indicative of a conscious collective. Just because they can't communicate with us or they communicate differently doesn't inherently mean they're not conscious or sentient. And so coming back to the saving the planet, I think it's really about understanding that the decisions we're making are going to affect millions and millions of other Earth beings on the planet, and they're just living their lives, doing their thing, and all of our decisions are going to affect them. And I don't think that's a responsible way to treat your home. I mean, that would be like if you lived in a house with a bunch of housemates and one person just like turned on the gas stove and didn't light it and just let the fumes go, and they were like, whoops, my decision. And everyone else in the house is like, yeah, but you're killing us. Like, what are you doing? And you're like, no, you don't matter because I own the house, or something. Like, it would make no sense. You'd say, like, that person's crazy. Or if a person... and then there's like the speciesist aspect of if that person did those things to their pets, that would be mind-boggling. They'd go to jail. They would be considered abuse, but then we slaughter and butcher other animals, and it's different animals depending on the country, so it doesn't really have to do with like the inherent value of that being, like compared to humans in general. It's societal. People eat dogs in one country and people worship cows in another, and it's all about the story we have. And I just want to take it back to, we've had a lot of stories about the lack of value around other beings for hundreds and hundreds of years. And we've always come to the realization that no, these beings have value, these beings have lives. And for a while we did it with people. And now, and there's some people who still don't get that, but most people on the planet would agree, like, humans deserve love, humans deserve food, humans deserve life and freedom. But somehow we have a disconnect when it comes to other life beings who are alive, who reproduce, who eat, who love, who cuddle, who play, who seek out comfortable living situations, and they build homes. I mean, we talk about like humans are the only ones who wear clothes and build homes and things like that, but like all kinds of animals build amazing structures. Look at the ants who build the giant colonies, or these amazing nests that some birds make, or all of those different things. And some animals are now learning to use tools. I just saw a video where a dog learned how to open a door to get in the house. Or this one dog was in a shop and he always saw people exchanging money for food, and so one day he came in with a leaf and like tried to exchange it because he thought that's what they were doing, and now he comes in with a leaf every time he wants a treat, and the store does it. So, and that's dogs, but like I saw a bird playing with a ball like out in nature. The bird figured out how that the golf balls bounce off of cement, so she kept picking them up and bouncing them off of the cement, and she was so excited, and she'd go chase after it and do it again. It's like, these beings are alive. These beings have feeling and play and connect. And with other humans, with other animals, why do we think they have less value than us? Just because they don't express their life in the same way we do, just because they have different bodies. I feel like when we look back on this, on this time, we're going to see how ridiculous it was. We're going to be like, how could we have not seen it? And so when we say we're trying to save the planet, we're not trying to save the rock. She'll be here for millions of years. What we're doing is trying to protect the home we have and the life we have here in harmony with the planet for us and the other beings on the planet, because they matter. There are so many beings and animals that are going extinct right now. We're going through another mass extinction. You can look it up. It's happening all over the place. And what's really sad is some of these beings, and all of them are worth it, but like some of them are like ones that we consider like so like important, like whales and giraffes and rhinoceroses. And like think in a few generations, the people who are living here on this planet might not even know, like never see any of them because they don't exist anymore. Like think about that. Imagine if you were born in a time and you saw pictures of rhinoceroses and you're like, yep, they used to be here, but they died out because people. And that would be really sad. Like just imagine living on a planet where some of these things don't exist anymore. And I don't think that's very fair to us. I don't think that's very fair to our great-great-grandchildren. Why does this not matter more to us? And why aren't we making the steps to change it? Like going vegan, being zero waste, different power, power supplies like solar and wind. Like, why can't we do this? It's not like everyone's being asked to, live in a hovel, like in some sort of like stick fort. These are things that we could do without changing that much about our lives, and it would have huge ramifications when it comes to building a more sustainable planet where all of us, including the other beings on the planet, could live in harmony and not have their homes destroyed because of animal agriculture and all of these things. Like, it just makes sense. Why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we make these changes? Because when it comes right down to it, it just seems really selfish and lazy that we're not. Why aren't we doing these things? And the other question is, if someone just gave these things to you, like, here, I'll, fit your house for sustainable power, and it was easy to be vegan, where all the restaurants were vegan and it wasn't hard, and we had all the alternatives right there, and it wasn't even something we had to think about. Or even like, zero waste, if there just weren't plastic bottles and that's just how life was, like, we wouldn't complain about it. Like, who would complain about it? We lived like that, not vegan, but we lived zero waste for thousands of years. Plastic is very new. Trash is very new. Even the amount of meat we consume is very new. It was only the rich people who got meat, and it was a very small amount of their diet. A lot of what we think is normal has only really been happening for the last 100 years or so. And humans have been around a lot longer than that. So, ask yourself, if it was easier to do, would you do it? And if you would do it if it was easier, why not do it now? Because it's still a good idea now, it just might be a little more difficult. And the more people who do it, the more it'll be called for. The more it will be easy. So are you going to be on that front line? Are you going to be a part of the change to creating a more sustainable world where we can all live in harmony with the entire planet and actually preserve a beautiful space and a beautiful ecosystem that we have here? Is it worth it? Is it worth the little extra time? I think it is. And it can be challenging at some points, but the more people who do it and the more we connect with other people who are doing it, we make a community and we support each other, it can actually be a very simple, logical thing. Because what's better than living in line with your morals and compassion and connection and love and sustainability. That just feels good. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please hit like and hit subscribe if you want to see more videos like this in the future. I talk about sustainability, self-love, connection with spirit, channeling, veganism, all kinds of things. If any of that interests you, definitely subscribe and comment down below. Like, how do you feel about this? And even if you disagree, write it with love. Like, why do you feel it's not important? So yeah, comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. Many blessings, you guys. Namaste. And don't forget, it is all about the soul journey. Bye.